the most common place a legal gun owner is going to come in contact with law enforcement is a routine traffic stop. It's a topic at US LawShield our members ask us about constantly. Hi, I'm Austin Davis. I'm a former police officer, full-time defensive firearms instructor, and the manufacturer of a unique concealed carry holster. Plus, I'm a guy who legally carries and occasionally gets pulled over by the police. With that background, I'm going to have some insight and some ideas to explain both sides of the interaction, hopefully making your next contact with law enforcement as a legal gun owner safer, more efficient, and have a more positive outcome. With that in mind, let's go for a drive and have a bit of a chat. How did this all start? Well, you're out driving around, minding your own business, completely unaware probably of that police officer. And the officer observed something that in their opinion you did or did not do that was in violation of one of an almost infinite list of traffic violations. And they decide to investigate further by initiating a traffic stop, lights and/or sirens. When the officer decides that you have possibly violated some sort of traffic violation, they're going to initiate a traffic stop, hit lights and siren. When that happens, first thing you want to do is put on your emergency flashers as soon as you figure out, yeah, it's me they're looking for. Now, in an ideal world, the officer wouldn't initiate the traffic stop unless it's in a place they're ready for you to pull over. But it doesn't always work out that way. For example, you may be in a situation to where there is no shoulder or no safe shoulder to pull over, or you're in a deserted, long, dark stretch of road, and you're not really sure if those lights behind you are real or there's some sort of con job. In that case, drive a reasonable speed. Your flashers, your emergency hazards, will let the officer know that yes, you're in compliance, and drive to a place that's well lit and out of the traffic flow. Once your car comes to a stop, put it in park. Lower at least the front windows, but all the windows if they're heavily tinted. There's nothing police friendly about tinted back windows. If it's dark, turn your interior lights, and if your stuff, your ID is handy, go ahead and start digging for it. But if it's more than just a quick reach and grab, just leave your hands on the steering wheel where the officer can see it. Now, before the officer makes his approach and we start having a chat, let's look at the situation from kind of a big picture version. What we have going on here is at least two people who have at least two firearms are going to get ready to communicate at a high level. And for that to happen, we want to eliminate all the barriers to success we possibly can. Let's start off with the basics. Humor. Don't use it. Even if you have a good joke, like, do you think when a regular dog sees a police dog, he thinks, oh man, be cool, it's a cop? Humor is at best an inefficient form of communication. And what we're dealing with here is a serious situation, so leave the humor out of it. Sarcasm. Sarcasm does not build rapport, and there is zero chance of you being sarcastic helping the situation. Your momentary zinger may make you feel good, but I assure you, one way or another, it will cost you. And finally, do not argue the merits of the stop on the roadside. If there's one or two things you call facts that you think are important, you may want to mention them. Remember, this is all being recorded. But the time for argument and discussion over what the issues of that traffic stop are when you have a lawyer and there's a judge present in the courtroom. At this point in the traffic stop, we need to figure out the legalities of whether or not we have to tell them we have a legal firearm with us. In times like this, you really wish you had an independent program lawyer to answer your questions.
Hi, I'm independent program attorney Emily Taylor.
Man, this is convenient. Come on in, I have questions.
Wonderful, I have answers.
This is gonna be perfect. So Emily, if I'm a legal gun owner and I have a firearm in my car, do I have to tell the officer about it?
Well, that law varies from state to state, so you'll want to consult an attorney in your home state for the answer.
There is no law in Georgia that requires you to tell a police officer you're carrying a firearm. If you're pulled over for a traffic stop and they're going to give you a ticket, odds are they don't know and they may not care whether you have a firearm in the car. If it's in your center console, if it's in your glove box, if it's under your seat and not in view, there's no law that says you have to tell them, and quite frankly, from a practical matter, if you tell police officers you have a gun in the car, it may only escalate the situation. So my practical advice is this: unless that firearm will somehow normally work its way into casual conversation, I don't know that I would tell them. And it's not the law that you must. It's also not a law that you have to present them with a weapons carry license. There's nothing in the law that requires you to tell a police officer that you have a weapons carry license. Hand the officer your driver's license and wait for your ticket.
Well, any more questions?
You answered them all. Hopefully when you get stopped, you'll have a program attorney which will just pop in your front seat and tell you what your legal obligations are. But let's talk about the words you use when you let the officer know you have a firearm. My advice is I would avoid the phrase, "I got a gun." See, the word gun is sort of a trigger word with officers. Some other options might be, "I have a license to carry," and just leave the gun verbiage out of it. But you really want to pick your words very carefully when you announce that you are in fact legally carrying a firearm. Once you've notified the officer that you are in fact a legal gun owner and you have a firearm, there's going to be 3 paths of action that officer can choose. The first one is just let you keep it. Usually when they let you keep it, they'll say something like, "Okay, you don't touch yours, I won't touch mine. Do not adjust, do not fiddle, do not manipulate your firearm. Leave your hands so you can see it, and the process will go fine." The second option is the officer will want to remove the firearm from you during the traffic stop for the officer's safety. And that's still a pretty straightforward process. If so, say, "Officer, no problem. How do you want to handle this?" Usually what they'll do is they'll ask you out of the car, you'll put your hands on a fixed object that lasts the location of the firearm, and they'll remove it off you. Don't act quickly, follow the instructions, no problem. The third option is the most difficult and the most complex. Some officers, for some reason, seem to think this whole process works better if you hand them the firearm. So, ask the officer specifically, what steps do you want me to take to remove my firearm? And then tell them the facts. I'm wearing a seatbelt and my firearm is in the ankle holster, appendix, small of back, shoulder holster, flashbang, whatever. Then when they give you the instructions, repeat them back and narrate your actions as you move very slowly. If at any point the officer gives you information that you think is counteractive to safety, doesn't make any sense, or even potentially dangerous, stop all motion, don't move anything but your mouth, and ask for clarity. Once you get to the brass tacks of actually taking the gun out, if it's at all possible, if you can just release the holster and hand the whole firearm to them holstered, it makes this go by a lot smoother. If for whatever reason that can happen and you have to take the gun out and hand it to them, a few things to think about. Number one, keep your finger off the trigger. Keep it well clear of the trigger guard. Make sure that you're very careful that you don't point the firearm towards yourself or anybody else. When you hand it to them, make sure that you hand it in a way that conveys that you're not trying to point the gun at the officer. At the end of the process, hopefully they're going to hand you your firearm back. When this happens, you need to be extremely careful how you receive that firearm back from the officer. When they hand it back to you, first off, be very careful and only point the gun in a safe direction. Not only keep your finger off the trigger, keep your finger well clear of the trigger area. If they hand it back to you with the action open, or if it's a revolver, the cylinder out, leave the action open, leave the cylinder out. If they hand it back to you with the cylinder closed or the action closed, do not do a check to see if there's a round in it, and do not reload the gun and do not manipulate it. Either put it in your holster or put it in a safe place. Once you and the officer are long gone, you can pull over and either decide to empty the gun or reload and rearm. But this is a very critical time at the end of the traffic stop where it's all too easy to make a common gun handling mistake. You really want to have your thinking cap on, and you really want to be aware. So there you have it, the basics of a traffic stop as a legal gun owner. Stay calm, do everything you can to reduce the risk and increase the safety of both you and the officer. Follow their instructions, and hopefully you two will drive off safe and happy, no worse for the wear. We hope you learned something in this program and you get a chance to attend one of our seminars. Go to uslawshield.com/seminars.